My dad asked me to record his proposal. Then he whispered, "Don't make this about your mother." But when he started his speech, I realized he'd lied to her for years. He was smiling like this was sweet. Like I should have been honored. Like I was still a little girl standing on a chair at Christmas, holding up the camera while he and my mom posed in front of the tree. Except this was not Christmas. This was not our family. And the woman standing near the back of the room in a cream dress, pretending not to notice the ring box shape in his jacket pocket, was not my mother. She was Melissa. And my mother was home alone, probably making tea in the chipped blue mug she refused to throw away because my brother had bought it for her when he was 12. My dad leaned closer and said, "Sarah, please. Just record the toast." I looked down at the phone like it was burning my fingers. "What toast?" I asked, even though I already knew. He gave me that tight smile I had seen my whole life. The one he used when he wanted me to stop asking questions. "Don't start," he said quietly. "Tonight matters to me." I almost laughed. Tonight mattered to him. Not the night my mother found the hotel charge. But tonight. His night. His new beginning. That mattered. I should have left right then. My brother, Joshua, would have told me to leave. Actually, he already had. 20 minutes before that, I had texted him from the parking lot because something felt wrong the second I pulled in. Dad had told me it was a small dinner. Just a chance to clear the air and maybe help everyone move forward. I was stupid enough to think maybe he wanted to apologize. Instead, the restaurant was glowing like a rehearsal dinner. There were flowers on the tables. Candles. Wine glasses already poured. Melissa's parents were there. A few of her friends were there. My dad's friend Brian and Brian's wife Heather were there, sitting stiffly near the window like they also knew something uncomfortable was about to happen. I texted Joshua, "This is not just dinner." He replied almost immediately. "Leave." I typed, "Dad says it's important." Joshua replied, "That means it's bad." I still went inside. I don't know why. Maybe because even after everything, he was still my father. Maybe because a part of me wanted to believe he could still choose me in a room full of people. Maybe because children of selfish parents are embarrassingly easy to train. Give us one soft phone call, one "I miss you," one "I need my daughter there," and suddenly we forget every time we were used as emotional furniture. The divorce had been final for almost a year, but the damage started long before the papers were signed. My mother, Deborah, found out about Melissa because of a hotel charge. That was the whole glamorous beginning of their love story. Not fate. Not destiny. Not some sweeping romance that made the universe shake. Just a hotel charge that looked suspicious enough for my mom to call and ask if the card had been stolen. It had not been stolen. My father had booked a weekend room with one king bed. When she confronted him, he didn't cry. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look ashamed from what she told me later. He just sat there at the kitchen table and said, "I haven't been happy for a long time." Like that explained it. Like unhappiness was a receipt that paid for betrayal. My mom told me that sentence over the phone, and I remember sitting on my apartment floor because my knees felt weak. I kept asking, "What do you mean he said that?" "That's all he said." She said he didn't want to hurt me. Then she laughed once, very softly. That laugh scared me more than crying would have. My mom had always been the one who made excuses for him. If he missed dinner, he was tired. If he forgot her birthday, he had a lot on his mind. If he snapped at us, he was stressed. If he sat through entire holidays without helping once, she would whisper, "Your father works hard." And maybe he did work hard. I'm not going to pretend he never provided for us. He did. We had a warm house. He fixed things. He paid bills. He showed up when cars broke down and pipes leaked and someone needed a ride from the airport. That was what made it so hard to hate him completely. My father was not a cartoon villain. He could be generous. He could be funny. He knew exactly how I liked my coffee. He once drove 2 hours in a snowstorm because I had a flat tire and panicked. When my dog needed surgery, he called every day to ask if she was eating. And then he would turn around and speak about my mother like she was a mistake he had survived. After the affair came out, he got louder. My mother got quieter. He said the marriage had been dead for years. He said my mom refused to grow. He said she made him feel like an ATM. He said Melissa understood him in a way no one else did. Melissa, who was not that much older than me. Melissa, who smiled at my mother in public once like they were two reasonable adults in an unfortunate situation. Melissa, who wore perfume so sweet it made my stomach turn when I met her by accident at my dad's shop. I remember that day clearly because Dad acted like it was normal. I had stopped by to drop off some old paperwork he kept asking me to print because apparently email attachments were too complicated when he didn't feel like dealing with them. Melissa was sitting behind the front desk in a pale sweater, tapping on a laptop like she owned the place. She stood up and said, "You must be Sarah." Her voice was soft. Careful. Like she was approaching a frightened animal. I said, "Yeah." She gave me this small, sad smile and said, "I know this has been hard." I stared at her. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I had too many things to say and none of them would have made me look sane. Hard? Hard was watching my mom sleep on my couch because the bed at home smelled like his laundry detergent. Hard was hearing her apologize to me because she should have seen it. Hard was standing in the grocery store with her while she froze in front of the cereal aisle because she didn't know whether to keep buying the brand my dad liked. So I just said, "I'm here for my dad." Melissa's face tightened, but Dad appeared from the back before she could answer. He hugged me, thanked me for the papers, and acted like the two women in his life were just awkwardly overlapping appointments. That was my father's talent. He could make something horrible feel like a scheduling issue. My brother refused to play along. Joshua was done from the second Mom called us. He told Dad not to bring Melissa around him, not to invite him anywhere, not to pretend this was some normal post-divorce relationship. Dad called him dramatic. Joshua called him something worse. I was different. I stayed in the middle longer than I'm proud of. I answered Dad's calls. I let him fix my sink. I sent him birthday messages. I didn't go to his place, and I didn't ask about Melissa, but I didn't fully cut him off either. People think betrayal makes choices clear. It doesn't. Sometimes betrayal just makes every choice feel rotten. If I blocked him, I felt cruel. If I answered, I felt disloyal to my mom. If I defended my mom, he said I was being manipulated. If I avoided the topic, I felt like I was helping him rewrite history. So when he called and asked me to come to dinner, I should have known better. He said, "Just a small thing. Melissa will be there, but I want you to give her a real chance." I said, "Dad, I'm not ready for that." He sighed, but not his angry sigh. His wounded one. The one that made me feel like I had kicked a dog. "I miss you," he said. "I know I messed things up. I know you're angry. But you're still my daughter. I want you there for something important." Something important. I thought maybe he was going to apologize. Maybe not to Mom, because he was too proud for that, but to me. Maybe he would finally admit that what he did changed the way I saw love, marriage, family, everything. I wanted that apology so badly that I ignored every red flag. So there I was, standing in the Iron Table, an upscale restaurant outside Pittsburgh, holding his phone while he asked me to record the happiest night of his life. I said, "You are not asking me to film you proposing to her." His eyes flicked toward Melissa, then back to me. "Keep your voice down." That told me everything. Not, "I know this is hard." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I should have warned you." Just keep your voice down. I said, "Does Mom know?" His face hardened. "Your mother has nothing to do with this. She was your wife for almost 30 years. And she is not anymore." I felt that sentence land somewhere deep. Not because it was untrue, but because of how easily he said it. Like Mom had been a shirt he took off and tossed in a donation bin. I whispered, "I can't do this." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Sarah, don't make tonight about your mother." That was when my chest went cold. Because I had not mentioned making anything about my mother. He had. He knew exactly what this was. He knew exactly how ugly it looked. He just wanted me to help him make it look pretty. I stared at him, and for 1 second, I saw the panic under his confidence. He needed me there. Not because he loved me so much. Not because he wanted his daughter beside him. He needed the image. If I filmed it, if I smiled, if I stayed, then he could tell everyone his children were coming around. He could say the family accepted Melissa. He could say the past was complicated, but everyone was healing. He needed me as proof. I don't know what made me stay. Maybe shock. Maybe anger. Maybe some ugly little part of me wanted to see how far he would go. I just know I stopped arguing. He handed me his phone again. I took it. He smiled, relieved. Then he walked to the front of the room and tapped his glass. Everyone quieted. Melissa turned toward him with her hands clasped in front of her chest, already performing surprise so badly I almost felt embarrassed for her. I pressed record. At first, the speech was exactly what you'd expect. He thanked everyone for coming. He talked about second chances. He talked about how life is short, how happiness can arrive when you stop looking, how sometimes the hardest roads lead you where you were meant to be. I stood near the sidewall, recording, feeling like I had left my body. Then his phone buzzed and the recording stopped. Storage full. For half a second, I almost walked over and told him. But he was still talking, and I knew if I interrupted, he would snap at me later for ruining the moment. So I pulled out my own phone and started recording from there. That was the only reason I had the full video. Not revenge. Not planning. Just his phone failing at the perfect time. Then the speech changed. He turned toward Melissa, and his voice got thicker. "For most of my adult life," he said, "I lived the way I was supposed to live. I played the role people expected. Husband. Father. Provider. I did what looked right from the outside, even when it felt empty inside." My hand tightened around my phone. People nodded like this was romantic. He kept going. "Then you came into my life," he said to Melissa, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. Not for what I could give. Not for what role I played. "You saw the real me. Melissa started crying. Her mother covered her mouth. I felt something hot rise in my throat. The real me. As if my mother had loved a cardboard cutout. As if my brother and I had been props in a life he bravely endured. As if the birthday cakes, hospital visits, school plays, unpaid bills, Christmas mornings, and all the ordinary loyalty my mother gave him were some prison sentence. Then he said the line that changed everything. I wish I had been brave enough sooner. Sooner. That word hit me so hard I almost dropped the phone. Because my mom had been holding on to one last piece of mercy. She believed the affair started near the end. She believed, because he told her, that things crossed the line after he had already decided to leave. She believed the marriage had collapsed before Melissa became physical proof of it. It was a horrible comfort, but it was comfort. And my dad had just destroyed it in a room full of people. He didn't say, I wish I left sooner. He said he wished he had been brave enough sooner while proposing to the woman he supposedly found after the marriage was already over. I kept recording. He got down on one knee. Melissa said yes before he finished the question. Everyone clapped. Some people cried. A waiter stood frozen near the kitchen doors with a tray in his hands, looking like he wanted to disappear into the wall. I didn't clap. My dad hugged Melissa, kissed her, and then turned toward me with his hand out. I knew what he wanted. The video. He walked over, still smiling for the room, and said, Thank you, sweetheart. Let me see it. I said, I'll send it. His smile weakened. No, just give me the phone. It's my phone. His eyes dropped to my hand. He realized then. The recording was not on his phone anymore. Sarah, he said quietly. I looked at him and said, Don't make tonight about mom, right? His face changed so fast it scared me. For the first time all night, he looked exposed. I left before dinner was served. I heard Melissa say my name as I walked out, but I didn't turn around. I got into my car, locked the doors, and sat there shaking so hard my teeth clicked. I couldn't drive for 10 minutes. I just stared at the restaurant windows while people inside went back to their wine and candles like my family had not just cracked open in front of them. Joshua called me before I even left the parking lot. What happened? He asked. I said he proposed. Joshua went quiet. Then he said, Please tell me you left. He asked me to record it. There was a long pause. Then my brother said, very calmly, I'm going to ruin him. I told him not to do anything. I told him I just wanted to go home. He said, Sarah, he used you. I said, I know. But knowing it and feeling it were different things. That night, Dad called me 17 times. I know because I watched every missed call appear while I sat on my bathroom floor with the shower running even though I wasn't in it. Melissa texted once from her own number. She wrote, I know tonight was emotional, but I hope one day you understand that love is complicated. Your dad wanted you there because he loves you. I stared at that message for a long time. Love is complicated. People love saying that when they are the ones causing the pain. I didn't answer. Then Dad texted. Send me the video. Then again. Sarah, do not make this worse. Then again. You're acting like your mother. That was the message that made me put my phone face down. The next morning, Mom called. I almost didn't answer because I knew my voice would give me away. But ignoring my mother after that night felt wrong. When I picked up, she sounded too calm. Did your father propose? She asked. I closed my eyes. How did you know? Someone sent me a picture, she said. Melissa posted the ring. She laughed a little, but it wasn't laughter. It was a sound people make when pain arrives before they can prepare their face. I sat on the edge of my bed and said, I'm sorry. For what? I was there. Silence. Not angry silence. Worse. Hurt silence. You were there, she asked. He told me it was dinner. I didn't know. I know, she said quickly, like she was protecting me from my own guilt. I know you wouldn't do that to me on purpose. That almost broke me. Because even after everything, she was comforting me. I told her he asked me to record it. I told her I left. I told her I was sorry again because I didn't know what else to say. She stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, Did he seem happy? I hated that question. Not because it was strange, but because I understood it. Some betrayed part of her still needed to know if losing everything had at least brought him joy. Maybe if he was truly happy, then her pain had meaning. Maybe if he looked empty, then she could stop wondering why she had not been enough. I said, Mom. She said, No, it's okay. I don't know why I asked. Then she said the sentence that changed what I did next. He told me it only started after he left emotionally. He said he didn't actually betray me for years. I know that sounds pathetic, but I needed to believe there was still a line he didn't cross. I couldn't breathe. Because I had heard him say it. I had watched him stand in a room full of people and admit, in his own polished way, that Melissa had been there before he was willing to admit it. Maybe not with dates and receipts, but enough. Enough to show my mother that the version she had been given was cleaned up for his comfort. I said, Mom, there's a video. She didn't speak. I said, I don't know if you should watch it. Her voice was small. Does he say something? I rubbed my face. He says enough. She whispered, send it to me. I said, I don't want to hurt you. You won't be the one hurting me. That sentence still sits in my chest. I sent it. Not because I wanted revenge. At least not only because of that. I wish I could say my motives were pure, but they weren't. I was angry. I was disgusted. I was tired of watching him walk around with the clean version while my mother carried all the shame. But mostly I sent it because she asked. She called me back 20 minutes later. She was crying, but quietly. That was always worse with her. My mother's loud crying meant she was overwhelmed. Her quiet crying meant something had settled into a place too deep to reach. She said, thank you. I said, Mom, I'm sorry. She said, no. Thank you for letting me stop feeling crazy. I covered my mouth and cried without making noise. Because that was what he had done to her. Not just cheated. Not just left. He had made her doubt her own understanding of her life. He had taken her memories and edited them until she wondered if she had imagined the distance, the late nights, the strange charges, the way he guarded his phone, the way Melissa's name started appearing in small harmless places before everything blew up. The video did not heal her, but it gave her back her reality. And then everything exploded. Mom sent the video to her lawyer because the sale of the old house still had unresolved issues. I don't know if the video changed anything legally. I'm not going to pretend it magically won her more money or ruined my dad in court. Life is rarely that neat. But emotionally, it changed the way people looked at him. Joshua found out I sent it and posted one sentence online. Imagine asking your daughter to film your proposal to your affair partner. He did not tag Dad. He did not name Melissa. But Pittsburgh is not as big as people think when enough mutual friends are involved. By lunch, my phone was full. Melissa's friend Stephanie messaged me first. She said I was cruel, jealous, and acting like a child. She said my father and Melissa were two consenting adults who deserved happiness. She said my mother needed therapy, not revenge. I wrote back, then why did he lie about the timeline? She did not answer. Another person sent me a paragraph about forgiveness. Someone else said I should not punish Melissa for my parents' failed marriage. Brian's wife Heather sent only one message, and hers was different. I'm sorry you were put in that position. That one made me cry again because it was the first time someone outside my immediate family said the obvious. I had been put in that position. Not by accident. Not because love is complicated. Because my dad wanted a pretty video and a quiet daughter. Melissa deleted the ring post that afternoon. Then she posted a vague quote about people trying to destroy what they don't understand. Joshua screenshotted it and sent it to me with, I hate everyone. For once, I agreed. Dad came to my apartment 3 days later. I saw him through the peephole before he knocked. He looked older than he had at the restaurant. Not guilty. Just tired and angry, like consequences were an inconvenience he could not believe had found him. I didn't open the door all the way. He said, we need to talk. I said, no, we don't. Sarah. No. His jaw tightened. You embarrassed me. I stared at him. That was how he started. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I should not have asked you. Not, I hurt your mother. You embarrassed me. I said, you asked me to record it. I asked you to record a private family moment. With Melissa's friends, her parents, and half your social circle watching? His face flushed. You know what I mean. No, Dad. I really don't. He took a breath, trying to calm himself, and that made me angrier. Because I knew that version of him. The controlled voice. The reasonable tone. The one he used when he wanted to make everyone else seem unstable. You had no right to send that to your mother, he said. She asked for it. You should have protected me. I actually laughed. It came out sharp and ugly. Protected you? Yes, he snapped. I'm your father. I looked at him through the small gap in the door and felt something finally settle in me. For years, being his daughter had meant protecting his mood. Protecting his reputation. Protecting his comfort. Protecting him from the consequences of what he said when he was angry. Protecting him from Mom's hurt. Protecting him from Joshua's rage. Protecting him from the truth. And he still thought that was my job. I said, Mom was your wife. His expression changed for a second. Just a flicker. Then he said, your mother has poisoned you against me. No, I said. You did that. He looked like I had slapped him. I kept going because if I stopped, I knew I would cry. You brought me there under false pretenses. You asked me to record your proposal to the woman you cheated with. You gave a speech where you made our family sound like a prison sentence. Then you got mad because I didn't help you package it as romance. He said, that is not fair. I said, neither was making Mom believe she was crazy. He looked away. For the first time, he had no polished answer. Then he said quietly, I trusted you. That one hit me strangely. Because part of me still wanted to care that I had hurt him. I hated that. I hated that even standing there after everything, some small daughter-shaped piece of me wanted to apologize, so he would stop looking at me like that. Instead, I said, Mom trusted you too. He stared at me for a long second. Then he left. After that, Things got quieter, but not easier. Dad and Melissa stayed engaged. I heard that through other people because I stopped answering his calls. Joshua blocked him completely. Mom did not block him because of the house paperwork, but she stopped replying to anything that was not about legal or financial details. Melissa sent me one long message 2 weeks later. She said I had humiliated her during what should have been one of the happiest times of her life. She said my father's marriage had been dead long before she came along. She said I was old enough to understand adult relationships are complicated. I read it twice. Then I replied, if you really believe that, you wouldn't need everyone else to pretend. She didn't answer. Mom's lawyer used the video less like a weapon and more like a shield. Dad had been pushing this idea that Mom was dragging out the last details because she was bitter and unstable. After the video, that story didn't work as well. People understood why she wanted everything in writing. They understood why she didn't trust his memory of dates, promises, or intentions. The house sale finally closed. Mom got what she was supposed to get. Nothing dramatic. No huge courtroom victory. Just what was fair. But the real victory came in smaller ways. She stopped asking if she should have done more. She stopped saying, maybe I missed something. She stopped defending him when people said he was selfish. One afternoon, I went to her apartment and found 3 boxes by the door. What's this? I asked. Your father's old things, she said. My whole body tensed because those boxes had been sitting in her closet for months. Work jackets. Old photo albums. A watch he forgot. Random pieces of a life he left behind, but somehow still occupied. What are you doing with them? She tied one box shut and said, dropping them at his shop. I'm not storing his ghosts anymore. I don't know why that made me cry, but it did. She looked at me and softened. Oh, honey. I said, I'm sorry. She shook her head. No more apologizing for him. That was the first time she had said anything like that. A month later, she went to Boston with my Aunt Nancy. Just a weekend trip. Nothing huge. They walked around, ate too much seafood, bought ridiculous scarves, and sent me pictures of themselves smiling in front of old brick buildings. My mom dyed her hair before she left. Not dramatically. Just darker, warmer, less like the tired woman who had sat at my kitchen table asking if my dad seemed happy. When she sent me a selfie, I stared at it for a long time. She looked like herself again. Not the old version exactly. Something different. Sharper. Sadder. But real. Dad's life did not collapse. I want to be honest about that. He did not lose everything. He did not come crawling back. Melissa did not leave him in some perfect karma twist. They're still together. But his story cracked. People stopped treating it like a sweet second chance romance. Heather stopped inviting them to dinners. Brian still talks to him, I think, but not like before. Melissa's friend Amanda quietly unfollowed her after the vague quote posts got embarrassing. The restaurant staff apparently talked about the proposal for weeks because one of my coworkers' cousins worked there and told her that was the most uncomfortable engagement I've ever seen. Small town gossip is not justice. But it is something. As for me, I still don't know exactly how I feel. Some days I feel proud. Other days I feel sick. There are moments when I replay the restaurant in my head and wonder if I should have just walked out before the speech. If I had left, maybe I would not have the video. Maybe Mom would still believe the softer lie. Maybe Dad would have gotten his perfect proposal, and I could have kept pretending his choices had nothing to do with me. But then I remember my mom's voice when she said, "Thank you for letting me stop feeling crazy." And I know I would send it again. Because my father did not just cheat on my mother. He tried to turn the betrayal into a love story and asked me to hold the camera. He wanted my silence in the background. He wanted my presence to make the room feel clean. He wanted to point later and say, "See? My daughter was there. Everyone is moving on." But I am not a decoration for his new life. My mother is not the bitter ex-wife in his romantic speech. My brother is not dramatic for refusing to clap. And Melissa is not a victim because people heard the truth spoken out loud. I don't think I won. I don't think anyone wins when a family breaks like this. There is no clean revenge when the person you expose is still your father. There is no perfect closure when part of you remembers him fixing your bike, carrying you when you were small, showing up when you called. That is the ugly part people don't talk about. You can love someone and still know they used you. You can miss who they were and still refuse to protect who they became. So now my dad has his fiancée, my mom has her peace, my brother has his boundaries, and I have a video I wish never existed. I don't watch it anymore. I don't need to. I remember every word. And I still wonder if I did the right thing for the wrong reasons, or the wrong thing because I finally got tired of watching my mother be humiliated quietly. Was I wrong for sending my mother the proposal video and letting everyone see what my father really said?